No pictures today. I'm going to start off by causing a fight, probably, and definitely an argument. The things that I'm going to talk about today are from my personal experiences, what I've learned over the last 10 years of doing things my own way, and how the outcome has been, they've been in my favor, so I can't say they're completely wrong. But yesterday we heard Ralph say that he trained his dogs year-round. That worked for him. That is not working for me. I personally believe that every athlete, whether it's a sled dog, a football player, or a marathon runner, needs some time off. So I choose personally to let my dogs rest throughout the summer. After I did a rod, it's hot summer months. I personally don't like to run my dogs over 50 degrees. I see a lot of people doing it, 80-degree weather. I seen a dog team running in Jamaica at 80-degree weather. And those dogs are accustomed to that. That's fine. That's not to say it's wrong. I personally don't think it's for my team. So, I let my dogs lay around all summer long and get fat. Extremely fat sometimes. So, when it comes to fall training, you're forced to go slow with fat dogs. In my opinion, fat, just like a person, if you're a fat person and you start training, your fat will turn to muscle. And your muscle, in turn, will naturally increase the speed. So, again, I'm sure that people who run their dogs year-round think that that's the best way and it's working for them, and I'm not one to say that isn't right. This is my way of thinking and my dog teams, the way I've bred and raised my team. So, I start off in the fall, slow as anybody. Because my dogs are so fat, they can't go fast. They walk. Therefore, I stop a lot. This is the time I'm on a four-wheeler, I have full control. I don't want to be training my dogs when I get to a sled, when you have very little control. If I give them a command on the four-wheeler and they don't respond, I can stop immediately, set the parking brake, and I can correct that command that they might not listen to. I'm constantly rearranging dogs. Just because my main leader was my main leader last year when I did a rod, that don't mean he's my main leader this year. He has to earn that position still. So I'm constantly switching new dogs. My wheel dog is, at one time during the run, my lead dog. And this has happened, and I'm going to tell a quick little story about how this all came about. Why I put my lead dogs in lead sometime, or my wheel dogs in lead, my leaders in wheel. 2005 Yukon Quest, my rookie run, I had no idea where I was going. William Cleeden, Hans Gott, Hugh Neff, these are people that had been doing this race, they had the experience. I was somewhat following their lead. I had a 2-year-old dog team. And I had 2 real good leaders in that team. William Cleeden caught up to me and Hugh just before we got to the finish line. It was about 100 miles from the finish line, and I had been breaking trail. Hugh had been following me for quite some time, and I was tired of breaking trail. And every time Hugh went by me to break trail, his dogs were all over the place, and I was always having to stop and wait for him to go a half a mile and I'd catch up. So Cleeden catches up to us, and he goes by, and I'm riding my brake behind him because I wasn't going to let him out of my sight. We were damn near to the finish line, and I had an opportunity to win the Yukon Quest of my first run. So this is pretty exciting. But we're going up over Rosebud, and it's blowing and snowing, and it's deep snow, and there's really no trail. And I'm continually have to stop and wait for Cleeden. And we get halfway up Rosebud, and he says, "Come on around." Well, like I said, I'd been breaking trail for hundreds of miles with Hugh. I was tired of breaking trail, so, we all got to take our turns breaking trail. So I went by him, and I thought about it for a little while, and, he had a pretty fresh dog team coming off this break, and I pulled off my break a little short to keep up with him, and he just came out of nowhere. So, as I went by him, I'm thinking, man, this is probably not the smartest thing I've ever done. So I stopped, and I took my wheel dogs, and I put them in lead, and I took off. And of course, we took about 30 steps and they veered off to the right, the same direction the wind was going. And I acted all flustered. I knew my lead dogs had no idea what the hell they were doing. Or my wheel dogs had never been in lead before. Clayton did not know that I had put my wheel dogs in lead. So I yelled back to him, "They're not gonna go. You have to go by me." He's like, "Man, I don't want to do this. You need to break trail for a little while." I said, "Well, you see my leaders aren't doing that well. They don't break trail anymore. They're burnt." So he went by me, and we used him for the next 100 miles or 20 miles to get up over top of Rosebud. And when I got to top of Rosebud, I put my leaders in lead, and phew, we took off. Well, that was my first experience of head game, so to speak. And I didn't make any friends by telling that story at the banquet. From then on, Clayton was out to get me. But it was the first time I experienced something like that, and I was going to use this now to my advantage. So, back to my fall training. Now I'm constantly putting dogs in lead that normally wouldn't be there. I'm switching dogs around constantly. Just to find out who's pairing up with who's running, best. I didn't choose years ago to free run my dogs. Some of the advantages I'm finding now of free running my dogs, and I don't free run them, so to speak. I have a fenced in area that they are confined to free running. And I can see which dogs are pairing up with each other, and which ones like each other, which ones don't want to be next to each other. And of course, this is all things that I've learned over the last few years of making mistakes. So anyway, I stop a lot when I'm training. I talk to them, just like I am you. Hey, idiot, you're not very good in lead. You're probably a better wheel dog. And you, hey man, you're a pretty bright wheel dog. I'm gonna try you in lead. And I'm trying to encourage them by talking to them. And I think, and I said this yesterday, I think the more you talk to them, the more they understand. So I'm going down the trail all the time. I'm talking to them. Hey Fido, man, you sure look good. You're sure pulling hard. I wish you'd tell the guy next to you to pick it up a little bit. Show him what's going on. I'm telling the rest of the team, hey, check this guy out, man. You guys need to work like this guy. So again, over time, I think they start listening and understanding some of the things I'm talking about. Maybe it's just for my own personal satisfaction, and I can keep my sanity by talking to myself. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure. I say this on a regular basis. I still don't know if I'm doing this stuff right, but it seems to be working for me. So, as I'm talking to them, I'm also paying attention to them responding. Some of them got their ears back and they ain't paying attention. Some got their tails up and head looking around. They're paying attention. Each dog has a different personality, as we all know. So I'm trying to find those personalities. But I find that some of my dogs have split personalities. So it's kind of entertaining at times for me. But the training part of it is some people take it real serious. I don't take my training as serious as a lot of people. I stop a lot, I joke around with them a lot. Most people want to go from point A to point B as fast as possible. We're training. This is my time to get through to the dogs and figure out what's going on. So I stop a lot. Sometimes, 5-mile run will take me 2 hours. What in the Christ's name can you do for 2 hours on a 5-mile run? But I've had every dog in lead 3 times, and every day it seems to vary for me. So I don't do the same thing 2 days in a row consistently on my training. For example, I have a 3-mile loop as my first loop of the fall training, and it's the shortest distance I can go. When we leave my yard, I'm right out of a steep hill. We get to the top hill, there's a watering hole. About 300 yards later, there's another watering hole. And then we go through some rocky log areas, and I don't clean the logs out. I want them to pay attention and step on those logs and have them hit them in the side of the head and things. I want them to pay attention that there's a log on the trail. So most people want to start their dogs off slow, build the muscles. I do too, because like I said, I got these big fat waddling dogs down the trail. But I see them run around their chain all day long. I know they got enough energy and stamina to go 3 miles. And if I start off too slow and build too much muscle, they'll never be able to stretch out. So even on my very first run of the first run of the season, I start off slow. I go to that first watering hole at a 4 or 5 mile an hour crawl. And then from my first water hole to my second water hole, I let them sprint. Even though they're fat, Their tug lines are bouncing and there ain't nobody pulling. But they get the opportunity to stretch out a little bit. And then I make them trot from the second water hole to home. Sometimes I stop 100 yards from home and I let them all bark and scream. And this is my command, let's go home. And I let them blast into the yard. You know, so in one 3-mile run, they've got 4 different situations already. They've been trotting, they've been loping, they've been waddling, they haven't been pulling on some sections, you know. This is in 3 miles. So imagine what it's like for 100 miles. But as we go, we get the dogs in better condition, we get to, you know, stretch out the mileage, and of course, they shrink in size, build more muscle.